Welcome to Innovation Israel, the show that brings you the latest news and cutting-edge achievements directly from Tel Aviv, the heart of the startup nation. On today's show, we'll meet three incredible startups, Cylus, Artsys 360, and Indoors, all leaders of innovation in their fields. But first, a few headlines out of Israel. Israel continues to be a beacon of innovation when it comes to medical advances, and its most recent invention is making international headlines. Researchers at the Ben-Gurion University may have developed a cutting-edge treatment for brain disorders like strokes and Alzheimer's disease. The new therapy combines two FDA-approved drugs that protect the barrier between the brain and blood. When that barrier is faulty, all kinds of toxins can enter the brain, causing serious damage like infections or even a tumor. Despite recent medical advancements, researchers still don't know much about the brain, which makes this treatment so potentially groundbreaking. The logic is that if the barrier is treated, then these horrible diseases can be prevented, or at least make an early diagnosis possible. By combining two drugs that already exist and prove effective, memantine and losartan, researchers hope they'll be able to make a breakthrough in preventing stroke, epilepsy, and many other neurological disorders. But it's not wise to get one's hopes up yet. A path to introduce the cocktail to the market will take time. Currently, researchers are busy looking for other financial partners to help speed up the process. When we think about cyber hacks of transportation services, we usually think about vehicles or airplanes. But what about another popular mode of transportation? Trains. Hundreds of millions of passengers ride trains around the world, and they are just as susceptible to cyber attacks. But don't worry, that's where Cylus comes in. This Israeli company protects rail systems around the world, ensuring safety for all passengers. And here to tell us more about this is Cylus' CEO, Amir Levinthal. Welcome.
Hi, Lidar. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on. Let's jump right in. Tell us about Cylus. What do you do?
So Cylus helps rail companies to protect the network against cyber attacks. We are solely focused on the rail industry, including metros and mainline intercity trains.
Can you tell us, maybe you have off the top of your head some statistics about the rail industry?
Yeah, so in general, it's a huge industry. There are 700,000 of rail cars, 1.6 million kilometers of tracks, and it's growing year by year. It's a huge industry. The networks are very complex and including all variety of technologies.
And have there been cyber attacks on rail systems to date?
Yeah, so actually year by year there are some cyber attacks. In 2016 there were 4 cyber attacks in the UK, also in South Korea, in Germany, in the US. So we see more and more cyber attacks on this industry. These cyber attacks are just part of the real cyber attacks, because for the rail companies, cyber attacks are very sensitive. If people will know about cyber attacks, they might not use the trains, and it will harm the reputation of the rail companies. So we can assume that there are much more cyber attacks on these networks.
I mean, yeah, it's a frightening thought. And when you say cyber attacks, what exactly does it mean? What does it entail when someone hacks a train?
So cyber attackers might attack the wireless communication between the control center and the train. Today, the trains are autonomous. They are being controlled. Most of the trains are being controlled from the center. And the center can increase the speed, decrease the speed, or stop the train. Imagine if an attacker would do the same. He would be able to increase the speed and then derail the train. So this is one example. Another example, if a cyber attacker, a threat actor, penetrate the network of the train itself and disable the braking system, the train might not stop, and this might cause a safety issue.
Now, you mentioned that there were a number of cyber attacks already that took place. What happened there?
So actually, in these cases, we know that the cyber attackers succeeded to get into the operational network, the safety critical network, and they were stopped before making their impact. But we just can imagine what could have happened if they succeeded to do that.
Absolutely. And so let's talk about Cylus. How exactly do you help to prevent cyber attacks?
So we give the rail companies the ability to detect those attackers within the network. Today, the rail companies don't have the ability to, don't have visibility on this network, and attackers might be within the network right now waiting for command to make their impact. we help them to detect and to remediate these attacks.
And you were the first company in the world to do this, to identify the threat in terms of the rail system. Is that right?
Yeah, this is right. In early 2017, we founded the company, and we understood that the rail industry have been introduced to new technologies, and the network is more connected and more complex. And we try to understand if someone is trying to develop solution for this problem, with this challenge. And we found now no one that is tackling this challenge. And we decided to found a company and to help these rail companies to have a solution for the threat.
So until 2017, there was no company in the world that was protecting the rail systems from cyber attacks.
First to market company.
That's astonishing. That's a big hole in the market.
Yeah, and it's a big responsibility. We are investing a lot of effort to provide a solution as soon as possible to the rail companies. We understand that passenger safety is paramount, and the passenger, for the rail company, safety is the most important thing, and we help them to find ways to.
And what rail companies do you work with today? Where are you?
So currently we are working in Asia Pacific, in Europe, and in the US, and we are working with the rail companies to find a way, and this kind of solution is not off-the-shelf solution. We need to tailor our solution to the needs of the rail companies. So we're in the process of providing solution to a lot of rail companies over the world.
So hopefully you'll get to protect all rail companies around the world. And what are your plans for the future? I mean, how do you see this field of cyber hacks in the rail industries? Is it only going to get worse? Are there going to be more threats as we proceed?
So unfortunately, we see over the years the attackers have more resources and are able to do more complicated attacks against targeted against targets. And today, I hope that we won't see cyber attacks that harm the safety, that make accidents or derail the trend, but it's just a matter of time that they will have the ability to do that.
Well, Amir Levintal of Cylus, thank you so much for this interview and for keeping all rail passengers safe from cyber attacks.
Thank you, Lidar, and thanks for having me here.
Israel's booming food startup and agritech scene is set to receive a huge financial boost. A group of big-time venture capitalist funds and food producers have pooled their money together to invest $100 million in this sector. Many of the parties involved are household names in Israel. Our Crowd, the Jerusalem-based crowdfunding venture capitalist company, Tnuva, Israel's largest food producer, Tempo Beverages, and U.S.-based Finisterre Ventures LLC are all taking part in this groundbreaking initiative. In addition to using the money to improve supply chain efficiency, it is also bidding to collaborate with an incubator launching in Kiryat Shmona, a town in northern Israel. That incubator is being touted as a potential world-class food hub and has the backing of JNF USA and entrepreneur and former Zionist Union MK Elel Margelit. The impact such a food hub can have on Israel reaches far beyond its borders. Those big company names, after all, are not just big in the Jewish state. They have business connections with multinationals all over the world. So while the agri-food scene here is small for now, these national and worldwide partnerships can lead to a huge boom in the coming years and may very well stimulate the economy in Israel's north. So far, some huge companies have taken note. McDonald's, Oreo Cookies, and Mars have all expressed interest in taking a bite out of the Israeli food tech scene. We've just heard about keeping our railways safe, but what about keeping our airspace safe? And no, I'm not talking about airplanes, but rather a new and ever-growing emerging threat. And of course, I'm talking about drones. These little contraptions have been responsible for shutting down entire airports, and they are only going to become more and more popular in the coming years. That's where ArtSys 360 comes in. They've developed technology that can detect and track drones via radar and video camera. And here to tell us more about it is Meir Zorea, Chairman, Business Development, and co-founder at ArtSys 360. Welcome.
Hi, nice meeting you.
So let's jump right in. Can you tell me about ArtSys 360? What exactly do you do?
First, we are a spin-off of the Israeli Technion, which is like MIT. And one of the three founders invented the technology, patented by the Technion. They are investors in us, and we're actually a spin-off. And we have developed a radar. Radar is basically military technology, and in essence, there is very good products in Israel. I mean, ELTA IAI is one of the leading Iron Dome. But now we are facing something which is more civilian, I would say, commercial level, and there is a need for whatever technology, which is drones, which is going to become more and more popular, more and more versatile in terms of usage. There come threats, and the threats can be because paparazzi, illegal video, can be used for smuggling, which is actually happening already with the airports and into prisons. And of course, can become a terror usage. I mean, you can send a drone with 5 kilos of something. You don't need to have an explosion with a suicide bomber. So you need to have technology that will be able to protect you. So protection means detection, tracking, and mitigation. Do something about it. And so we have developed something in this essence.
So can we talk a little bit about the technology behind it? You said that you are a spin-off of the Technion, one of the top universities in Israel and the world. So let's talk a little bit about the technology itself, the patent behind it.
So radar, if you look at Iron Dome, for example, you see that the most important or most difficult part to develop in the Iron Dome is the radar, because it has to detect real-time missiles, several missiles. You saw that recently, unfortunately, in Israel, and you need to direct something to collide. Very complicated technology. And military means that price is not the first consideration. Bring me a very good product, and whatever the price is, because it's life and death.
Right.
We are talking about commercial environment, for example, prisons and airports and power stations and buildings, etc. And in this case, if you need to build a system, it's under a constraint of budget. So it's not for everything. And there is a limited amount of money that you can invest in it. So we took a unique technology from the Technion. One of the founders invented it, ARES. And this was used to develop a very low-cost, very efficient 363D micro radar. Just to give you an example, we're talking about in a scale of 1 to 10 cost. So radar can be 400, $500,000, $1 million radar. We're talking 300, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. So it's 1 to 10. And because of that, you can start using it in areas that are got budget constraints, compared to locations that cannot afford that. So we developed something very unique in terms of radar. But we didn't stay with it, because at the end of the day, what you need is a solution, is a system. So we have a radar that is doing 24/7 detection. Once there is detection, it directs into the target that approached us, video camera and thermal camera, and it's doing like a second detection and tracking. So now we look at the target and we track it, and then we can evoke some kind of something to do. For example, we can send a drone that would do acquisition of the target, so it can follow the target, can jam the target, there's several things that are now evolving. We are actually in the middle of the development, but at the end of the day, we can supply a full-scale solution.
And drones are difficult to track, if I'm not mistaken.
Extremely difficult. For just an example, if you track a car, compared to a person, it's 1 to 100 in terms of size. If you take a person compared to a drone, it's again 1 to 100. So actually, you are looking for something that, if you look at a drone with your eyes in 300 meters range, you don't see it. Right. So it's very, very difficult to differentiate between what is a drone and what is a bird and what is just some leaves moving. So it's very difficult to develop it. And after 5 years of development and a couple of millions of dollars in investment as a startup and the ecosystem of Israel with startups, I think we've done something remarkable. And now we finish development, sort of, because you never finish. But there is already a product, and we are starting now deployment. A very, very nice solution that people are coming from all over the world to buy from us.
And so what industries are you working with right now?
I can give you 2 or 3 examples. I think that will be, first of all, for example, we have people from Italy came to us because they've got very, very large acres of plantations of avocado and pomegranate and things like that. And at night, somebody is coming and stealing the crops. So they're looking for a solution that will detect somebody at night coming with a car, people walking, and sometimes drones coming to do, I would say, surveillance before. So they looked at everywhere and came to us, and we are now in the process of installing about 2 systems with 20 radars, with thermal cameras, et cetera, et cetera. So something that we talked to them and they said, listen, we looked at everything, we couldn't afford other solutions. The second thing, we are now in the process of a tender with a very large airport in Eastern Bloc in Eastern Europe, an airport that we will probably sell something like 10 radars. You know that closing down an airport costs $1 million an hour.
Wow.
So drones are there. Sometimes it's not malicious. Sometimes it's somebody just doing,
By accident.
recreation drone.
Yeah.
And so we need to have kind of solutions. So airports, agriculture, power stations, etc. This is where we are going.
Meir Zorea, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Appreciate it. Enjoy it.
The field of medical cannabis is booming here in Israel. It's considered by many to be one of the next major tech industries to come out of the country. There are so many exciting innovations in this field, and joining me today are Ido Hefner and Jordan Marcus from Indoors, which analyzes, predicts, and automates the optimal growing environment for medical-grade cannabis. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Great to have you on. So tell me about Indoors. What exactly do you do?
Well, Indoors is an agri-tech company that it's actually command and control company that helping growers to achieve the right crops in their facility. We're using a lot of sensors and image processing and observing the plants and doing the right automations inside the facility, and by that providing them the ability to have the real growth of the plants without any problems, because every problem is affecting the facility with a big impact. And those impacts can be mitigated or totally eliminated with the right systems.
Great, and let's talk about the medical cannabis industry, because it's a relatively new industry. Can you provide maybe some insight into that?
Yeah, and so kind of to go off of what Ido said, the reason why these guys are scaling up, the reason why they have so many challenges is because the industry today in 2018 in North America alone was $41 billion. By 2026, it's going to be nearly $100 billion of just cannabis sold across North America, with Europe and other places soon to follow. You're talking about these challenges being, environmental control, humidity control, structural and design control of these facilities. And as they're going from 10,000 square feet to 100,000 and above, these problems become at a much larger scale and the risk is much greater. So for us, we're focusing on working with small to medium guys who are scaling up and who are looking to really change and affect these issues in a positive way, to be more proactive, using, like Ido said, our automation, our technology, our image processing, our sensors to help reduce and eliminate those risks. And we're seeing a very rapidly growing industry with many different environments and many customizations ahead.
Okay, well, before we get to the tech,
Yeah.
I want to hear a little bit more about the problems or the challenges facing farmers growing cannabis today.
Sure. So as an example, they're facing humidity issues. So when you go from a room of 1,000 square feet to now you're making 10,000 square foot rooms, the airflow and the control of the temperature is much different. And the plants are, yes, they're in a closed control environment, but they're in a different space and they're reacting differently. And now you're using that data to see what you've done in the past and to utilize it to help you predict what's going on currently and into the future to help reduce those risks. Ido, do you want to talk more about specifically some of the problems?
Actually, cannabis farming, it's like a factory. There are a lot of moving parts. You have valves and pumps and electric HVAC systems and lamps and fertigation and fertilizer.
It's a very complex
very
operation.
complex, and
and people running those operations.
It's always the human factor that we need to take into account. And you need only one thing to go with malfunction that you are not aware. And most of the growers are only recognize the problems when the plants are reflecting it. And it's too late.
And by then it's too late.
It's too late because it's a live organism. It's not a medicine from the big pharma.
You can't turn back the clock.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for this batch, you got a different thing. And this lack of consistency in this problem is one of the biggest that the growers are dealing with. So Indoors is there, supervising everything. We have sensors in all the levels, in all levels, in the atmosphere, in the water tanks, in the root zone even, where the media is, where the roots are. And by that, we combine it with image processing. So The image processing is giving us like a quality label. We see how the plants are progressing every day. We see if there is a problem. We can correlate the data with the feedback from the cameras and give a lot of insights to the grower.
As an example, something we're doing is, plant discoloration or from heat stress events or things like that. Items that we're seeing potentially before they're happening, we're recommending to the growers to go check a specific zone or to go check a specific area so they can kind of bring that plant or bring that zone back to life before it's too late.
We are turning the growers into proactive regarding their malfunctions rather than reactive, and it's a different game.
Giving them a toolbox, if you will.
It's a different game that impact the ROI, impact the revenues, and impact the final product, which is counts the most, because there are people behind it that using it.
Yeah.
And as long as it's going mainstream, it should be very similar to the stable things, products that we are achieving from the big pharma.
And can you tell me what stage you're in today? I mean, is this technology already in use?
Yes, of course. So today we are working for 3 years. We only went out from stealth mode like 1 year ago, and now we have a few clients over North America, and in Canada and the States. And now we are on the second phase that in a few weeks we are about to install in 10 new farms.
Wow.
Yeah, and this solution is really bringing the right KPI for the growers. And this is what we do. We're showing them, look what you had before us. And now after indoors, you can even turn it into money. Because in the end, you're getting money for this hard work.
Absolutely.
And what's interesting about this market is that you have small growers who are trying to really hone in on the cannabinoid profile and really do something special with the plant and create a medical value. And you have medium to large scale guys that have different issues and maybe are more focused on the business and operation and less, but also focused on the plant. So there are a myriad of challenges here that, we're looking to help solve to become one of the technology leaders in the industry.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Idon, Jordan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And that's all the time we have for today's show. I'd like to thank the amazing startups who joined us. And remember to like us on Facebook at Israel English News, on Twitter at ILTV News, and visit us on our website at iltv.tv. I'm Ladar Gavelazi. Thanks for watching.